Bombshell tonight, live, Illinois. Mommy signs her 6-year-old baby boy out of kindergarten, takes him to the zoo, to the local water parks. 24 hours later, mommy's dead in a motel. 6-year-old baby Timmy is gone.
She allegedly left a note that said Timothy was safe, but would never be found.
For years, Timothy's distraught father Jim and Amy's family prayed for his safe return. Then, 8 years later, out of the blue, a teenage boy is found and tells police he is Timothy Pitson.
Stunning news surfaced yesterday about an 8-year-old kidnapping case with Rockford ties. A 14-year-old boy claims he is Timothy Pitson.
Throughout the years, police have received a number of tips of Timothy Pitson sightings, but they always led to dead ends. Now police say a 14-year-old claims he escaped 2 kidnappers who held him hostage for over 7 years. And Timothy's family members are holding their breath, hoping he's back.
Cautiously hopeful. Very cautiously hopeful. And if it turns out to be him, we'll be thrilled.
Timothy's heartbroken family had never stopped believing he was out there alive. Was this 14-year-old really Timothy? Had he finally come home? Investigators had their doubts, but brought the boy to a children's hospital for DNA testing.
We're learning new details about the criminal history of a man who allegedly claimed to be Timothy Pitson, an Illinois boy who disappeared nearly 8 years ago. Police say the man is actually Brian Reaney.
He was a 23-year-old imposter who claimed he was inspired to pretend to be Timothy after seeing his story on TV.
Prosecutors say his story didn't match up, though, after DNA proved he was not Pitson.
Today I'm speaking with Timothy Pitson's father, Jim Pitson, and Aunt Kara, as well as the brother of the imposter. What would make someone pull off such a cruel hoax? And the other question that has now bubbled to the surface is Timothy out there alive? And if so, where? Who did this suicidal mother give him to? I'm very sorry for the circumstance. I hope that that we find your son, and I hope that what we do today shines a big bright light over this and gets people to pay attention, and maybe they'll tell us something that will help us, right?
We're going to eventually find Timothy. I know that in my heart. It's not if, it's a when type of thing at this point.
Talk to me about the couple of weeks leading up to his disappearance in terms of your relationship with Amy. What was going on between the two of you?
Amy's friend had got her tickets for a vacation down the Bahamas for a week, and nobody informed me on it, and she goes, I'm just gonna go, and I'm like, you just can't go, we got this going on, Tim's got school, I'll just take him out of school for a week. I'm like, no, we can't take him out of school, so.
Was it unusual for her to go on vacation without you?
Yeah.
Was there angst between you and Amy? Did y'all have anger, bitterness, resentment between each other?
I didn't think there was any anger or bitterness towards each other at that point.
When was the last time you saw your son alive?
I dropped him off at kindergarten that morning. She usually drops him off at kindergarten. I pick him up after kindergarten, take him to daycare. Then when I get off work, I pick him up at daycare and take him home.
But the school knows you and your wife both.
Yes.
What was the last thing he said to you and you said to him?
He said, love you, Dad. I go, I'll see you after school, buddy. And I watched him run off to class. So,
you know, hindsight's 20/20. When you look back now, was there anything about his conduct or behavior that suggested he felt anything out of the ordinary, or any tension with his mother or you, or anything at all?
He was just acting like a normal little kid, you know, going to school, coming home, playing with his friends.
He didn't say goodbye with an extra finality or anything at all.
No.
When you let him out? Just
no.
Adios, bye, see you.
Love you, Dad, see you later.
Okay.
So.
When did you find out that he wasn't at school that afternoon?
I'd go to Greenman Elementary. This teacher goes, what are you doing here? I'm like, get Timothy, he's already gone. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, so I buzz into school and I go, my son's not here. His teacher said he left at like 8:15. Can I see who checked him out? And they said there was her name at 8:15, checked him out of school.
You dropped him at what time?
8 o'clock, 7:45, 8 o'clock.
So you were barely gone before she picked him up.
Yeah. Well, I dropped Timothy off of school, and I took Amy to work that morning, and I went home.
You took her to work?
Yeah. She had suffered from vertigo, and the day before she had a bad vertigo attack and was stumbling around, and I'm like, well, I don't want you driving, just want you to make sure that you're safe, and I took her to work.
So other than vertigo that morning, was she behaving unusually?
Just tired. It's just, I mean, she'd acted like that and she had a attack of vertigo. She'd be like tired, a little irritable, but didn't seem nothing out of the ordinary.
She wasn't like vacant or
No.
100-yard stare or anything?
No, she was pretty, was like, I can take Tim to school and go to work. I'm like, well, you can't walk. Just do it. It's no big deal. It's just trying to look out for you and Tim. And
do you believe that morning when she was talking to you, that she had resolved to kill herself as she stood there that morning, or do you think she decided that later on?
That's a hard one to say, because I'm not sure when she decided to do that.
But again, I'm like, was there any like final goodbye? I'm never going to see you again. I'm never going to see the house again. Was there anything that suggested, this is it, I'm leaving, not ever coming back?
No, to my recollection, there was none of that.
And was there any unusually lifted spirit where she was happier? Because sometimes there's a kind of a short-termers attitude where it's like, I've found my solution, so I'm not going to be here much longer, and sometimes you see a lifting of mood.
No, not really.
And did y'all sleep together the night before?
Yeah.
Same bed?
Yeah.
Like
always?
Normal?
Like normal.
Had dinner?
Had dinner,
before?
yeah.
When she left the school, she said there was a family emergency. She picked him up just 15 minutes after you had dropped him off, roughly. Had she ever gone way out of pattern before and picked him up like that where you didn't know it and to cause you any concern?
No, none at all. We had a regimen. She'd drop him off, I'd pick him up type thing.
There was surveillance video of him leaving the school.
Yes.
Look at that. Is that a normal positioning for she and Timothy?
Yes, yeah. Hand in hand, it's always, yeah.
Did you notice any vertigo on the video?
No, I didn't notice anything out of the unusual.
So she wasn't wobbling around?
No, it doesn't seem like she was.
And what was she driving?
A blue Ford Expedition.
It was her car?
Her car, yes.
Okay, all right. Had you dropped her at work?
Yes, I had.
And how did she get from work back to her car?
She must have had to walk that way. Her work from the house was 3 blocks.
Yeah.
So she probably had to walk the 3 blocks home.
You went in and saw that she had signed him out at 8:15 for a family emergency. Did an alarm bell go off in your head?
Not really. I tried to call her cell phone numerous times, seeing what's going on. No answer.
So she leaves, and she makes several stops, we now
Yes.
know, right?
Yes, she did.
After she left the school, she took him to get her car repaired.
Yep.
Do you know what was wrong with it? Was she getting it roadworthy?
The alternator was going out, and so that's probably what it has.
And she knew enough that if she's going on the road, she needs to get this fixed.
Yeah.
So she didn't break down somewhere. And then she went to a zoo while it was getting repaired.
Then she went up to the water park up by Gurney.
Is that the kind of thing that she would normally do with him?
No. If she was going to do that, her mom would go along, or her sister's kids would go along.
That's not her pattern.
Not the pattern, no.
So they check into a hotel, and how far was the first hotel from the school?
Probably 2 hours.
She's now...
That's Wisconsin Dells.
So is this the second hotel?
Yes, that's the second hotel.
And how far is that?
Wisconsin Dells was probably 3.5 hours, 4 hours
So she's
away.
now 3.5 or 4 hours away.
Yep.
Okay. Are you thinking this is on impulse, or do you think she's calculated this? Because she's there 15 minutes after you're gone, and now she's 3.5, 4 hours away from home. Is this a known path for her?
No, we'd never been up there.
When you saw these, did you have any idea that these surveillance images would be the last time you would ever see Timothy?
Coming up.
While she's gone, she called some family members, right?
She called my brother.
He said that he heard Timothy in the background.
Yes.
She didn't call you.
We now return to Where is the Real Timothy Pitson? a Dr. Phil daytime exclusive.
The 6-year-old boy is missing. His mom checks him out of kindergarten. He's just 6 years old. She takes him to all the local water parks, to a zoo, almost as if she's showing him the time of his life. Mommy is found dead in a local motel. She slits her own wrist. Authorities are convinced the little boy was never in the motel with Mommy, so where is he?
When you saw these, did you have any idea that these surveillance images would be the last time you would ever see Timothy?
I had not.
Nothing still
no.
clicked that she was a threat to him?
No, no.
While she's gone, she called some family members, right?
She called my brother.
Is that typical for her to call your brother?
No.
So that's not a
It's not a pattern of hers.
He said that he heard Timothy in the background.
Yes.
She didn't call you.
Well, actually, the police said that she tried to call me twice, but the call had dropped somehow.
Do you think these calls to family were standstill calls? Do you think that was to keep everybody from alerting police or whatever?
Yeah, from worrying.
Everybody stand still. I'm checking in. I'm
all good. You know, it's all good. I think she called her friend Liz and said that, tell them that we're fine. We'll be back in a couple days. I just need to blow off some steam. I'm upset at the gym. I'm like, okay, well then you answer the phone and we can talk about it. So,
When was the first time an alarm bell went off in your head that your son was in danger?
That Saturday morning when the police came to my house.
That's when they had found
Amy deceased, yes.
Okay, so until she had taken her own life, you still thought, I know this woman, she loves our son.
Oh, yes.
She's going to turn back up here.
Yeah, just give her a day or two, let her cool down, call me, we could talk about it, type of thing. So
Never occurred to you that he wasn't coming back?
No.
With her?
Never occurred to me one little bit that he wasn't going to come back.
The last image of your son before he vanishes into thin air is as they are leaving this resort.
Yes.
Right? She's got on a backpack.
It's a backpack, Tim's bag. Tim's got a toy in his hand. This is the one where they're heading out the door.
And this is at approximately 10 a.m.
There's another one where he's walking through the hallway too. He's actually got different clothes on too.
So he's changed clothes.
Yeah, she had stopped and bought him clothes, a couple toys. Toothpaste, toothbrush.
And none of that was ever found?
No. She gave it to whomever when she dropped him off.
So she leaves and goes
to the Rockford area.
How would she know someone to drop a child off to? Do you know someone that you could drop your child off to forever?
No. My mom. That'd be the only person I would
You don't know anybody that you could say, want an extra kid?
I have nobody in my mind.
Because that's a pretty big ask, right?
Oh, yeah. That's a huge ask.
And don't tell.
Yeah. Yeah, the don't tell part's the hard part.
Investigators found that she had an email account, and you knew about it?
No, I didn't know about that account. The one that the police found, no, I did not.
Do you believe that whoever she was communicating with over that account is who has your son?
Yes.
But just in your pattern of living, there wasn't an opportunity for her to have met someone that she could have said, here's a child. So she had to meet somebody on the internet.
Or something.
Is it possible that she was making arrangements in that account?
It's possible. People who post stuff on websites wanting a child or
adopted him,
try to adopt him out or something like that. You know, could be I got terminal cancer and I'm an only mom or something like that type thing.
Right. Because she certainly didn't do it for money.
No.
Because she wasn't there to spend it.
Yeah.
They did forensic workup, and there was evidence that her car had been in a meadow, and they identified a certain type of grass and wildflowers. And is there any place like that she had ever told you about or that you had been to?
Two of us have gone to a couple of nature reserves and did some walks and stuff like that. But that is out of the area that she was in her pattern on her drive.
They pinged her phone and found out that she had made secret trips to the same area before.
Oh,
is that true?
It wasn't the phone. They looked it up, and she had made 2 trips to the Rockford area. couple months earlier or something like that.
Did you know she had gone somewhere those days?
She did a lot of stuff after work, so there was always like meetings with boards and stuff like that she had to go to.
Well, her phone was found on the side of the road. Her car was abandoned at the hotel.
The night person had seen her go back out into the car that night and went back up to her room.
And then go back up?
Back up to her.
And that was the last time anybody saw her?
Yes.
And what time was that?
Well, I'd probably say 9 or 10 o'clock.
Was there any sign that he had ever been in that hotel room?
No. From the desk clerk's thing that she was the only one that checked into the room.
Nobody had ever
Nobody
seen
else
him
had been
there?
there, no.
Wasn't like he'd been there and they left and she came back without him or anything?
Nope.
So he had never been there?
So he'd already been gone before she even checked into the motel. There was the video of her at the food grocery store, and she got crackers and milk.
Is there anything unusual about her?
No Tim there.
Right.
So Timothy's gone, so this is the only footage out of all the footage where Timothy is missing.
So somewhere in that 5 or 6 hours, that's when whatever happened, happened.
True.
Wherever she took him, wherever she dropped him, whatever she did was in that window.
Coming up, Timothy's father and aunt sit down together for the first time in 8 years.
You think she had been planning this for a while?
At least 6 months.
Do you think she was making arrangements for Timothy?
Where is the real Timothy Pitson?
Somewhere in that 5 or 6 hours, that's when whatever happened, happened.
True.
Wherever she took him, wherever she dropped him, whatever she did was in that window. It seems like to take him away from his father and his family and his friends, that was aimed at someone. It seems like that was aimed at you.
I think she was upset at the way things have been going. Timothy didn't need his mom as much as he needed before. He was becoming more independent. Maybe she was feeling that she was going to get left behind, but I have no idea how her mind was working at that point in time. She quit taking her medication for a while, I guess. She was on some antidepressant medication.
How long had she been on it?
Probably early 20s, I would say, late teens, early 20s.
And she took her own life, so it's your theory that she was depressed?
Yes.
When people are depressed, their thinking slows down, they're less active, and it seems like here she went to really elaborate steps. I mean, she's going to the water park, she's going to the zoo, going to this motel, that motel. She's doing a lot of stuff. It's kind of like, I'm going to go out with a mommy bang. I'm going to
show my son the best time.
Yeah.
Create memories while we're still together.
I'm trying to play out in my mind her handing him off to a couple of adults that he doesn't know.
Yeah.
Would she have said, goodbye, this is it, I'm not going to see you again? Or would she have said, hey, I'm going to have you stay with these people for a little while?
Daddy and I are going to go do something, he's going to watch you or something like that. I still don't understand why she would do that and just not leave him home.
So were you completely shocked to find out she had taken her own life?
Totally, completely shocked. I mean,
out of the blue?
Out of the blue. I would not have thought that was going through her mind at all at that time.
So her disappearing Timothy, whether she took his life, which seems to me highly unlikely from a psychological point of view, or putting him with someone else and taking her own life, those events were just not on your radar.
I was totally stunned that she'd even thought about taking her own life or took her life. And my first question to the detectives was, where's Timothy at? Well, he wasn't there. I'm like, what do you mean he wasn't there? I'm like, have you found him yet?
It's also unusual for a woman to commit suicide in the way she did, to slit her own throat and her wrists. That's a very violent way for a woman to do that. Had you ever seen that kind of behavior in her before?
No, I did not.
So she had attempted suicide once before you were married. She took some medication and then fell off of a cliff, into a ravine.
Yeah.
Now, Amy's sister Kara is here today.
Yep.
I'm going to have her join us.
Hello.
Kara, Dr. Phil, how are you? Good to meet you. Have a seat. When you heard that she had gone missing and taken Timothy, were you surprised?
I was a little surprised, but Amy has had some erratic behavior before. She's gone on car trips and She's trying to reinvent herself. So I don't know if I was really surprised. I know I talked to Jim and I said, just let her get it out of her system and it'll be okay.
Yep. Yeah, I think about behavior being on a continuum. Like, this is kind of maybe normal, whatever normal is. And everybody has a range. Did you ever think that her range could go so far back this way as to take this child away from this family and give him to someone else?
I couldn't have even come up with this in my wildest dreams.
Because think about what we're talking about here. To take him and give him to anybody means that she decided that the people that he had been with in his life, his dad, his aunt, his grandmother, all the people that he knew and that he had grown up with and around, he was better off with a stranger. How would her reasoning have to go for that to make sense to her?
Coming up.
Had you ever threatened to take custody due to her mental instability?
I threatened to divorce her.
But you don't think she would hurt him?
No.
They did find blood in the van. How do you explain that? Closed captioning provided by...
We now return to Where is the Real Timothy Pitson? A Dr. Phil daytime exclusive.
The real Timothy Pitson went missing when he was 6 years old, around the same time his mother was found dead in a motel room of an apparent suicide. She allegedly left a note that said Timothy was safe, but would never be found.
She decided that the people that he had been with in his life, all the people that he knew, he was better off with a stranger. How would her reasoning have to go for that to make sense to her?
I don't think that she thought he would be better off with a stranger. You know, our family, there's some troubled past, some difficult relationships with our father, and this was her fourth marriage.
Do you think she was trying to get him away from the family specifically?
No, I think that she was hurt by my father. She was hurt that she felt like Jim and her were having problems. She didn't know where it was going to go. So I think suicide was the ultimate forget you, and doing what she did with Tim was also a punishment.
We always say hindsight's 20/20. You think she had been planning this for a while?
At least 6 months.
Why?
Well, the police have evidence of her making trips to Rockford, and she would tell Jim that she was going to work at my father's office and would take Tim with her, and that all turned out to be not true.
Do you think she was making arrangements for Timothy?
Yes.
Why that area?
I can only guess that whoever she met and whoever she connected with, that was their meeting place.
Why did she kill herself?
I'm surprised that she did after she had Tim, because she seemed different. She had tried more than once in the past to commit suicide. She just tried to be a different person. She would go from a job to another husband to another job, you know, go on a road trip or move somewhere, trying so desperately to figure out who she was.
And you said she was considering divorce.
I don't know that she was considering it. She said that they had started having problems, and I'm sure she was worried about what her life was going to look like if there was a fourth divorce. And this trip that she planned with her friend to the Bahamas, we argued about it. I told her I thought it was bizarre. I said I cannot imagine going on a tropical vacation with anyone other than my husband, and Jim has every right to be upset by it. It's weird.
And you said you guys had had friction, of course, at times.
Every marriage has some friction.
Of course. Had you ever threatened to take custody due to her mental instability?
I threatened to divorce her at one point in time when I first found out she was seeing and talking to her first ex-husband, and they had actually met and did lunch and stuff. That was when Tim was like 2.5, 3 years old.
So
that's water under the bridge.
Do you believe Timothy's alive?
Oh, absolutely.
And how do you think she found someone to put him with?
That's the million-dollar question that I don't know that we'll have the answer to until we find Tim and if he remembers.
But you don't think she would hurt him?
No.
They did find blood in the van. How do you explain that? Closed captioning provided by...
Hey, babe, what's up?
These singles have finally met the one.
I want to get on with my life and I want you in it.
But never in person.
After 12 years, Josh and I have never met. What if we don't click in real life?
Until now. 7 couples will put their virtual connections to the test.
You'll be living with your person.
But will reality mean true romance?
We have a beautiful love story.
The Never Ever Mets. New series Friday, 8/7 Central and stream on Max.
They are the 5 words everyone is talking about.
Kill them all, of course.
I am told Jarecki is planning on doing a sequel.
The trial's gonna be a zoo.
I will take care of anything you need taken care of.
I don't like being threatened by you.
There are going to be surprises and surprises.
The Jenks Part 2, streaming exclusively on Max.
Fulfill may look like a candy bar, but with 15 grams of protein, we swear it's a protein bar.
Let a TurboTax full-service expert do your taxes as soon as today.
We made a promise to our boy Blue that we would make the healthiest foods possible with the finest natural ingredients and real meat first. And that's our promise to you and your dog or cat. Because when you love them like family, you want to feed them like family.
Anything in that building is a target.
We now return to Imposter poses as missing boy. Where is the real Timothy Pitson?
They did find blood in the van. How do you explain that?
Timothy had severe bloody noses, and one day he had a bloody nose and all over his clothes, filled up 2 rags and went down the seats. They could not tell the age of the blood. They just found that it was blood in the car.
Yeah. And then they tested some blood and they found it was hers on the knife.
On the knife, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So there's none of his blood was on
none of his blood
the knife at all. So there's no evidence that she's harmed him.
Yeah. There's
in
none
any
at
way.
all.
One of the things we often look at to determine whether someone's going to kill themselves or not is if there is any forward thinking or action at all. And she bought him clothes, toys, backpack, toiletries that you're going to need if you're going to be here for a while, if you're going to be with someone. And motherly instinct is that you would not want to drop a child with nothing that he calls his own. And that to me is a very strong sign. And as morbid as this sounds, if a mother was going to kill herself and her child,
yeah, she would have
they
killed
would
him
do
first
it together.
Yes.
But to do that with him somewhere and then leave him, abandon him somewhere, and go off on her own is psychologically unsupported. That doesn't make sense. Well, she wrote a suicide note that was addressed to your mother. Mom, I know you're hurt and frustrated, and I wish I had something better to say than I love you, but I don't. I have never really felt like I belong here, but somehow I've always felt apart from everything. Tim helped with that for a while, and maybe if Jim and I had been better, I would have been okay, but everything just fell apart, and this time, there were just too many pieces for me to pick up again. I can't take the chance of Jim hurting Tim because of my choices, so I've taken him somewhere safe. He will be well cared for and says that he loves you. Please know that there is nothing you could have said or done that would have changed my mind. I'm sorry for the hurt and difficulties I know you are going to face. I just hope you'll be able to forgive me one day. It was just time for me to say goodbye.
Amy had a pretty common coping method, and when she felt that things were too much for her and she didn't want to take responsibility for her life, she had to compartmentalize that somewhere. So it's easy for her to say that I don't want this because he wouldn't be safe, because I think that she wanted Jim to feel bad and she wanted to hurt him. I don't think she even thought it was true. I think she just really wanted to have a penchant for the dramatic. I mean, she killed herself on Friday the 13th, and it was right around midnight.
She says, I can't take the chance, so I've taken him somewhere safe. As irrational as it is, it sounds like a legitimate thought process to me.
Yeah.
Whereas if she had taken his life, I would expect there to be finality in here. There's not. She's not talking about him in the past tense.
Definitely true.
Which is very important to see. She goes on to say, there's nothing you could have done to change my mind, and I'm sorry for the hurt. I hope you'll forgive me. It doesn't read with that darkness to it, and I don't know if she actually expected to die when she wrote this, or expected to be found, or what. There are statistics that suggest half of all suicidal deaths are accidental.
She took an overdose of antihistamines. She laid in a warm tub and cut her wrist. It wasn't happening fast enough, so she got up out of the bath to get the knife again and cut her throat.
Well, the story gets more and more bizarre because after 8 years of searching for little Timothy, a boy shows up and tells police that he's your missing son.
Yes.
And when you saw this photo, did you think it looked like Timothy? Does it bother you that some people define you as Oprah's friend?
We now return to Imposter poses as missing boy. Where is the real Timothy Pitson?
Police say a 14-year-old claims he escaped 2 kidnappers who held him hostage for over 7 years. And Timothy's family members are holding their breath, hoping he's back.
Cautiously hopeful. Very cautiously hopeful. And if it turns out to be him, we'll be thrilled.
When you saw this photo, did you think it looked like Timothy?
Maybe a little bit, because you can't really see the facial features, and you can't tell how tall he is either. So.
Plus, it's been 8 years.
8 years, yeah.
So was there any time you believed this was your son?
When this had happened, I was at work. The detective on Timothy's case called me and said that they had a lead in Kentucky. And I got another phone call later that night, and he goes, the person does not carry himself as a 14-year-old. And they took DNA, and then it came back that it wasn't Timothy.
Did you believe ever that it could be your nephew?
I hoped, and then I didn't hope because the story was him escaping from captors, and it's just the worst possible scenario that you can think of, that he had been suffering.
Well, there's someone here that's been working on this case. She is with the Center for Missing and Exploited Children.
Yes.
Angeline Hartman. I really want to dig into this, and you've covered this case. Do you believe Timothy is out there alive?
I do. Over the years, I've gone back and forth, and we talk about this amongst ourselves at work, but there's many of us that really believe that he is alive.
What makes you think so?
Her note. It's upsetting to read that note, and it's just heartbreaking. But that note, to me, what she says is he is safe.
Well, you know, I'm the same way about the note. I read what it says and what it doesn't say. When someone is taken another person's life, particularly a child's life, there's a psychological shift in their mentality, and that's not here. What will it take to find this boy?
One person, Dr. Phil. One person looking at his picture, paying attention, and making that call.
It's been 8 years, so you've got to work backwards in time to 2011. Is there a time that a young boy showed up somewhere, some community? Because you always think, well, I'm not going to be the one that finds this boy. Yes, you are. Somebody is talking to this boy today.
Oh, yes.
Right.
Jim, in case Timothy is watching, is there a memory you can share with us that only your son would know or remember?
Riding the go-kart in the backyard, playing in the hot tub. His favorite toy, weasel, little stuffed weasel we got at IKEA.
There was a birthday party, was it the year or two before, where Amy and Jim
bounce house? Or the
decided
reptiles?
the animals. So he was riding an alligator.
If Timothy's watching you right now, what do you say to him?
Go to the police station. Tell him you think that's who you are. Get a DNA sample. Call the National Center for Missing and Exploited.
Is he welcome back home?
Always.
What Amy did to make him look the way she did was not right.
And it doesn't matter how long he's been gone, right? He has nothing to be ashamed of here. There's nothing he's responsible for. He needs to understand that, right? Children need to understand.
He did nothing wrong.
And you didn't either, Jim. Nobody in the world deserves what has happened to you. Nobody. Thank you. And I'm sorry that she did it to you. She didn't have a right.
Well, Timothy, let me say, if you're out there and you're hearing this, I promise you, if you will reach out, I will personally stay involved because we want to make this right. We want to make it right for you. Now, we have some insight into this imposter. His brother is here to explain just why he thinks Brian would put this family through this. I'm going to talk to him next.
Coming up.
Is this malicious?
He pretended to be me in a traffic stop.
Is he mentally ill?
That's no excuse.
Closed captioning.
Who is being held without bond and facing federal charges.
We've now learned that Brian Reaney has a history of conning people and is no stranger to local police.
The FBI says Reaney claimed to be Timothy Pitson, who disappeared in 2011 when he was 6 years old.
Jonathan, when did you find out this was your brother?
I received a call from somebody who said they could divert media attention for me, and I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, oh, you haven't heard the news? And I Googled him, and I was like, what is going on?
Was this totally out of the blue, or has he done things that were kind of unstable in the past?
He's pretended to be me a couple times. He went to a hospital complaining of chest pains and used an old insurance card of mine. And then he pretended to be me in a traffic stop, told them my name, my social security number, and then he never showed up for court.
Help people understand why he would do this. Is this malicious, or is he mentally ill?
He has bipolar disorder, he has Asperger's, he has ADHD, oppositional defiancy disorder, but that's no excuse to do something like this.
Well, it's not a free pass, but it does help people understand that he's just not sitting around his apartment laughing and saying, who can I troll today? Who can I hurt today?
Of course.
This is something that he just has trouble regulating.
I know he has problems regulating his emotions, expressing how he really feels, but to do something like this, it's just...
What do you want Timothy's family to know?
I just want them to know how sorry I am on behalf of my family, because my family does not support my brother in anything that he's done. They do not condone this kind of behavior. Everybody's offered to help him.
So he's facing charges in this case. What do you think should happen to him?
He should definitely do time, and I really hope he does, but I also hope that when he is in prison, they try to get him the mental help that he really needs.
There are different kinds of time. You know, you can just go and be in a cage, or you can be in a psychiatric facility where you actually get some help, and hopefully that will happen. Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming here on behalf of your family and talking about this. And your brother's not a con man. This is something where he needs treatment, not punishment. And I really hope that they get that for him, and I certainly advocate that. So thanks for coming here and talking about this. If you have any information on the whereabouts of Timothy Pitson, or know anything about his mother and who she was in contact with in her final days, please don't hesitate to call 911 or 1-800-THE-LOST. For more information, go to drphil.com. If you're interested in true crime, check out my new podcast, The Killer Thorn of Gypsy Rose, Analysis of Murder by Dr. Phil. You can download it for free. Thanks for watching.